Top American diplomat Anthony Blinken has departed for China. Now, with Washington-Beijing ties at a critical point over a slew of global disputes, Blinken will be visiting China for 3 days to hold talks with senior Chinese officials in Shanghai and Beijing. Well, to talk more on Blinken's China visit, we are now being joined by Jean-Pierre Cabastin, professor at the French National Center for Scientific Research, and he's joining us live from Hong Kong. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Professor.
My pleasure.
Now, the visit by Blinken comes at a time when we've seen a slew of issues between Washington and Beijing. Do you think that this visit by Blinken will be able to perhaps bridge the divide between the two countries?
Well, no, I don't think so. Actually, as you just indicated, there's no lack of disputes between the U.S. and China, all the way from the China support to Russia in the war in Ukraine, the tension in the South China Sea, in the Taiwan Strait, quite a number of other issues related to Indo-Pacific security, and also trade issues with the risk of having the U.S. market being overflowed with Chinese electric vehicles. The good news is that both sides are talking. There's a willingness on both sides to stabilize the relationship. And with the slowdown of the Chinese economy, I think on the Chinese side, there is a need to improve to some degree the relationship. So the other good news is a number of channels of communication which have been reopened between the two militaries, but also at various levels to tackle a number of burning issues, including the fentanyl issue, and other questions.
Professor Cabastin, you speak of how there are a slew of issues between both the countries. What exactly is Blinken trying to achieve with this visit to China?
Well, there are a number of priorities. The top priority, as the way we understand it here, is the war in Ukraine and the fact that China has provided Russia not so much with weapons, but with the technologies, chips, which can be used in Russian weaponry. As you know, maybe there's been a surge in China's export of toys to Russia, and in toys you have a lot of semiconductors which can be used in other devices like missiles or drones. So I think the Biden administration is very worried about the degree and level of cooperation between China and Russia, and I think that will be the priority. There are other issues, of course, which are also affecting other parts of the world, and the Middle East, the war between Israel and Hamas, and whether China can have some leverage over Iran to sort of avoid an escalation and to sort of prevent the local war from expanding to the whole Middle East region.
Right. Professor Cabastin, Blinken's visit also comes at a critical time. That is just after the Senate passed a bill providing aid to Israel, Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific. How do you see that panning out during Blinken's China visit?
Yes, of course, it's going to cast a shadow over the visit. But I think China was expecting that the House of Representatives would vote in favor of that package for Ukraine, but also Taiwan and Israel, which is a key U.S. ally. The other issue, which has maybe discussed, is the TikTok issue. As you know, the House of Representatives voted with a large majority a decision to compel TikTok to disinvest or to close activity in the U.S., and it's going to be another contentious issue between both countries.
I also want to touch upon another aspect that just 2 days before Blinken's Beijing visit, the Chinese Navy released a video showing the launch of JL-2 ballistic missile from a nuclear submarine. How do you assess that, the timing specifically, and what kind of messaging is China trying to send here?
Well, in the last few months, in the last few days, China has really wanted to show its new achievement in terms of military modernization. You mentioned those missile tests, but the latest report is about this new laser propulsion submarine, which is very quiet and which has been tested by China. So So China is trying to not only to catch up with the US, but also maybe to surpass the US in terms of military capability, and in order to create a new balance of power outside of in the vicinity of China, in the East and South China Sea, and with its objective to sooner or later take back control of Taiwan.
Right, Professor Sebastian, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on WION with your insights.